I found a sweet Golgari Stompy list. You know how I love aggro. It's got Riding Regisaur, it's got Steel Leaf Champion, it's got some of my favorite creatures printed in the last couple years as far as aggro creatures go. And it 5-0'd a league, which means that it can compete right now. Let's talk about Golgari Stompy in Pioneer, if I can learn to say Golgari without it sounding weird. The video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. We are going to talk about Golgari Stompy in Pioneer today. Watch some gameplay after we talk about the deck. But first, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button before you leave, it would really help us out. Let's jump over into the deck list and take a look at it first. This is the Golgari Stompy from Pioneer Preliminary number 5-0. That's what it is on February 22nd. So you know it was in there with the tap Lotus Breech combos with some kind of inverter deck, I'm sure. And so it's got some promise. You can see here that it's by user Integral HDK, and we will throw this list into the description. The URL is right down there. Jumping over to the online view of the deck, you can see it starts with a base of 8 mana dorks. 4 Elvish Mystic and 4 Llanowar Elves, so that hopefully as many times as possible you are dropping Riding Regisaur, Lovestruck Beast, Ronus, or Steel Leaf Champion on turn 3. Ronus and Yorvo, it's not your best drops in my opinion. Steel Leaf and Lovestruck Beast and Riding Regisaur are much better. Obviously Riding Regisaur pairs beautifully with Vivian Arcbow, where Vivian can give it trample. But the goal is to get one of these creatures onto the battlefield ASAP. We also run Coco in this deck, alright? They run 3 of it, and I'll tell you, there is nothing more satisfying than playing Collected Company and hitting to a Riding Regisaur or a Steel Leaf Champion right before it comes back your turn to attack. Riding Regisaur plays really well with Scrap Heap Scrounger, which is a 3 of in the deck. You've got Exile another creature card from your graveyard so it can return if you're having to discard it to Regisaur. Harpooner's going to keep Flyers out of the air, and Heart of Kiran is going to play off Vivian, but it's only a 1 of. Mostly it's if we run out of options on the ground, we can take to the skies and attack there. Pretty standard sideboard for Pioneer. Let's jump into some gameplay and we'll check that out. I've got 1 full match to show you and then 2 shorties. When you're playing online, some people just drop. I wasn't shooting this in a league, so people aren't really incentivized to stay, but we got a good idea of how the game goes. Looking at this opening hand, this is the dream. We've got our mana dork, we've got a turn 3 drop, and we've got a Coco in hand ready to fire off. So we play the elf turn 1 and it gets Fatal Push. That's honestly to be seen in this format, especially playing against black. You know, Thoughtseize is going to hit mana dorks, Fatal Push is going to hit mana dorks, things like that. We have a 2 mana play, luckily, with Scrap Heap Scrounger, and so we can start putting some pressure on as soon as possible. You know, we see another island and it's passed, so we're playing against some kind of counter deck, and that's fine. We can go ahead and swing because nothing's going to have haste this turn, and we can just keep applying the pressure. That's really what we want to do. With Yorvo, it's the 1 of in here. You definitely don't want to see multiples, and so with Yorvo coming onto the battlefield, it's a creature that can grow. We're getting mission briefinged here, and so honestly, Fatal Push seems like the best call for them, and that's what they use. They kill our Scrap Heap Scrounger, and we have to move on. We do have a 4/4 on the battlefield though now, which is nice. Looking across the battlefield, they've got a Kalitas, which is 3/4, so not hugely problematic for us, but it will give lifelink if left unchecked. So, since the blue deck is tapped out, we go ahead and collect a company main turn, on our turn rather, so that we can be sure that it gets off. We don't want that countered, you know. This is going to allow us to grow Yorvo pretty quickly, and you see right there, that's the dream. Collect a company for a Lovestruck Beast and a Riding Regisaur. That's insanity. We swing in for 5, they take it, and pass the turn. So now we're set up. We've got a 5/5 on the field, Riding Regisaur, which is just awesome. And all we really got to do is find a some kind of 1/1, which we have 8 of in the deck, 12 if you count if you count Lovestruck Beast, but they quit before we can even get the rest of the game going. The next matchup here is against what ends up being a Sultai deck. We see our opening hand, and oh my goodness, that is quite a bit of mana, so we mull that away. We mull it into 2 Overgrown Tombs, Land War Elf, Coco, Scrapheap Scrounger, and Regisaur, so an excellent opening hand. We can play the Elf on turn 1 and then hopefully jam the Rotting Regisaur on turn 2. We run the Land War Elf out there, and before the turn even passes back, it has been Fatal Pushed. That is a theme with this deck. Those 1-mana dorks, they get aced as soon as possible to slow the ramping down. We get Thought Erasured, and looking through our hand, we think probably they're going to take the Rotting Regisaur, maybe the Collected Company if they're really worried about it, but Rotting Regisaur is probably the right choice, and that's what they take. So we've been, closed off of our first strategy to approach this game. Luckily, we do have a turn 2 play with the Scrapheap Scrounger, so we can go that route and go ahead and get that out there. We top deck a Regisaur, which is really lucky, and we'll be able to play that turn 3 should we not get Thought Seized or Thought Erasured again. At EOT, they go ahead and play, oh no, we're on their main phase, they play a Satyr Wayfinder and start digging through, looking for lands, as it were. They're down to 4 cards in hand, is the Sultai deck, and so if we can find another land, which we do, we're going to be able to play Collected Company on curve still. So we're swinging in here, we don't mind. I mean, it's not going to block well, the 1/1, and if the Scrapheap Scrounger dies, we can bring it back. Regisaur is going to hit here, and we pass the turn back to our opponent. They are waiting at our instep, but they do eventually take off. We've got the Wayfinder. They've got 5 cards in hand. We're hoping that they aren't going to remove the Rotting Regisaur, obviously, but they could also be waiting to see what happens. Now, here we're forced with a choice that I personally was not good enough to see coming, even though it seems pretty obvious. And so we had to discard the land. Luckily, we draw a land and we're good. The the Murderous Rider hits the Regisaur as it swings, but we know we're good to Coco here. So we drop this, and we see a Lovestruck Beast, which is fine, and which is not a bad one to draw at all. And then we see an Elvish Mystic and a Crawl Harpooner. We play the Elvish Mystic so that the Lovestruck Beast can swing off of it, instead of playing the Crawl Harpooner and hoping for the best. Liliana hits the battlefield, and with the opponent at 12, we don't know if Ace is the place or what's going on, so we're going to need to get that Liliana down because our mana dorks that are going to let our Lovestruck Beast able to swing are going to be very much affected by that. The correct thing for them to do here, which is what they do, is throw the 1/1 in front of the 5/5 and keep Liliana alive so that they can kill the Elvish Mystic yet again with that plus ability on Liliana. They are down to 2 cards in hand, and so we're kind of grinding them down. We're out of resources. Top deck of a Collected Company, though, really can give us, the land, the ground power to go through, which is exactly what we top deck. So pretty excellent timing on this Collected Company, but we see an elf and an elf, so it's not great, but it does turn on our Lovestruck Beast, so that's better than nothing. We can push through here. Again, we don't care if they block the Scrapheap Scrounger with the Murderous Rider. They're taking it all this time because they, why lose the Murderous Rider if the Liliana is going to die anyway. 3 cards in hand for the Sultai deck, and they play a Satyr Wayfinder, which is pretty good for us. That's not going to really affect us other than buying them an extra turn if that's what they need. Via blocking. So here we just keep pounding in. We don't have anything in the graveyard currently that can come back. We see another Swift End on the Lovestruck Beast. The 3/2 is in attack mode here, and they toss the 1/1 in front of it. They're down to 1 card in hand. However, they do have a Murderous Rider in the exile zone that can be played since the Swift End was played. They go on Grizzly Salvage and do some graveyard shenanigans, and then we see a Thought Erasure. So we have a basic land in hand. That's a haha. Big KW there, and we take that one down. But that was to see if they were going to be able to get away with playing a Scavenging Ooze. Ugh. Scavenging Ooze is pretty mean to this deck. We don't necessarily have a great way to deal with it, and if it gets bigger than our stuff, that's pretty much the game. Even here, you know, we're kind of nervous with swinging in because they can just make the ooze bigger. We know we have to do as much as we can here because in response, once they're untapped, they'll be able to make the ooze bigger. We can swing here, double swing here for 7. You know, they can toss the Murderous Rider in, gain 2, and not lose 4 life. They're at 10. But at this point, we're kind of going, I don't really know what we're going to do about the Skoos here. They can just activate this over and over and over again. They're gaining life. It's getting bigger. We can't go around again with our desert because that's gone now. You know, our options are limited. We're going to need to really get lucky here so that we can take the Skoos out. We draw a Collected Company. We might as well go see what we can get. And upon review, we find a Lovestruck Beast and a Crawl Harpooner. So maybe we can go wide, you know, maybe that's possible. We don't have any targets for the Crawl Harpooner, so it'll get bigger, but it ain't going to fight anything down. At this point, we're not really sure about even attacking at all with the Scrap Heap Scrounger. Seems useless. And they continue to just absolutely empty our graveyard out and make their Skoos bigger and bigger while regaining life that we had already attacked down. They only have 1 card in hand, but yeah, I mean, they don't really need much else, you know. We draw a 1/1 and we just pass it right to sideboarding. In the sideboarding, we definitely bring in the Fatal Pushes. We're going to be on the play here, so we're arguing with ourselves about Thoughtseize. We'll bring in the Assassin's Trophies and take out the Hearts. Flying's not going to matter so much here, but we do want to clear the ground. We don't want to run into that Skoos again, because look at the main company. Besides Vivian, we don't really have any removal at all in our main deck. We end up sticking with this. I think this, you know, keeps us aggressive while also giving us some removal options against the Sultai deck, being that they will be playing creatures a lot, and that is something that we need to keep out of our way. This hand is not great, but it is fine. We don't want to go down necessarily. We do have a turn 2 play. We've got a Fatal Push in hand. And we get lucky and draw a Rotting Regisaur. But honestly, with this deck, it runs so many 3-drop creatures that getting lucky is, you know, that's finding one of your 3-drops. You've definitely set the odds in your favor to do that. And so, you know, when it happens, it's not wildly shocking. We got Fatal Pushed, and they play an Overgrown Tomb without worrying about a loss of 2 life for it. We play the Rotting Regisaur. Essentially right here, we're just trying to fight through all the removal that we're going to have to fight through. Get some stuff to stick and hopefully keep our opponent on the back foot while we push through an attack. Rotting Regisaur is going to make us discard here. We need that land so that we can play Vivian here. They played a land, say go, with their tapped Overgrown Tomb, so you can pretty much guess, yeah, exactly. They were holding removal for that Rotting Regisaur, and they just wanted to get us to discard a card off of it before they actually attacked with it. We've got the land from the Assassin's Trophy, so we can play the first half of Lovestruck Beast and say go. We take Vivian up, but we don't target the human. Obviously, we want the Lovestruck Beast to be able to swing through. Now we've got our Vivian on the battlefield, so Scavenging Ooze, while scary, is not terrifying to us because we are, you know, we've got a repeatable removal there, and we've got Regisaurs for days. We want to play, we can't play both here. We would rather play both those Regisaurs at the same time. So we go with Lovestruck Beast because we can do the -3 to the 5 there and kill this Ooze before it's able to get any bigger. Hopefully setting ourselves up to draw another land here in the next turn or two and be able to drop both those Regisaurs at the exact same time. We send the human in, and 1 damage is achieved. They play a Tireless Tracker and start investigating and growing their little tracker with their clues, as it were. That's a good turn for us, though. They're down to 3. We can now play both Regisaurs on the same turn. We can put counters on the beast and grow faster than the tracker can grow, and we start pushing in. That's the whole game here. They sack the clue, they're drawing, and they are growing their tireless tracker, but we know unless they want to lose their little source of clues there, they're taking 7, which is what they do. We tap 6 mana and get funky with it, and we play Regisaurs. Here come the zombie dinosaurs. That is what you want to see there. Dump that hand onto the battlefield and say, deal with this or we're going to attack you. Still got the Vivian backing them up nicely because we can put a counter on each of the Regisaurs and give them trampling so that we don't have to worry about these blockers being here. Turn passes back to us. They're not attacking with the Tireless Tracker. They're down to 9 life and they have 3 cards in hand. However, they do have a clue and they will be able to sacrifice that clue with the mana that they've got open. We're sacking clues. We're doubling up on the Tireless Trackers. Normally this would be terrifying. However, they're not able to find an answer and we go to game 3. Riding Regisaurs got there that time. We look at our sideboarding here and we're on the play. But I think we're just going to run it back. We really don't want to worry about... We probably should have put the Thoughtseizes in there. But against Sultai, we just want to try and stay really aggressive and keeping the pressure on. We've got a Lovestruck, we've got an Elvish Mystic, we know there's going to be removal, but it is what it is. There's probably one too many land in this hand, but that's one of those like coin flips, right? If that hadn't been a land, it would have been a great keep, and if it was a land, it was kind of a crappy keep. So we play the Mystic. It's going to have a little Satyr Wayfinder friend added to the battlefield. Luckily not getting removed on the very first turn, giving us the ability to do, another land, to do what this deck does, which is play a very powerful 3-cost creature on turn 2, and just immediately start a clock or start burning through their removal or whatever. We've drawn 2 lands, which is a huge bummer, and definitely not what you want to see. We've got a Fatal Push in hand. They're tapping and saying, they're playing a land and saying go. We can swing, but chances are that they're going to start tapping mana here and play a removal, Abrupt Decay. Probably brought that in specifically against us. I doubt that's in their main deck, maybe 1 or 2. And now we are sitting on removal and lands. This is just not the position you want to be in with this deck. You want to try and avoid this position as best you can. Right there, we could either play the Assassin's Trophy on the Wayfinder and lose the Fatal Push, play the Fatal Push on the Wayfinder, lose the Assassin's Trophy, or do nothing, keep our removal for, exactly what we want it to go on, and not a 1/1 with an ETB of get lands. We draw a Blooming Marsh, really not where you want to be, and so we just kind of move on from that match. It's competitive. The deck is competitive against the tier decks, and it stomps non-tier decks, obviously. It is a couple of matches that I played with this were against, like people's homebrews and stuff like that, and it's absolutely the right deck to stomp those decks. As far as where it falls on the tier, it's probably not tier 1 right now. It's probably like tier 2, tier 2.5. However, it is a really fun deck that can be competitive, and if any bannings happen, could very easily move up the ladder. It's got a little bit of a weakness, I would say, to removal, but then what doesn't? You just want to get that aggressive start, get in there, and really punish them for not hitting lands or not hitting their curve. This is that kind of deck. We played the Mystic on turn 1, it got Wild Slash. They're playing a Dreadhorde Arcanist turn 2, but we're getting to do exactly what our deck does. We are playing a turn 3 Regisaur, obviously, but we're just gonna keep crapping them out. That's what we're lined up to do. We're able to collect a company next turn if they don't kill the Mystic. We see a Storm Chaser Mage. It's some kind of blue-red, is it prowess, 1-cost spells deck that we're sitting across from. But we've got pressure, and we're feeling good about this right now. We've got 3 mana, 4 if our 1/1 doesn't die. We've got a Love Struck. We've got a Scrap Heap Scrounger and a Harpooner for that flyer there. We've got Collected Company to go and just fill our board up really fast out of nowhere. They're tapping out. They got 3 lands in hand. You know, we're pitching the Scrap Heap Scrounger into the graveyard because that's exactly what we want to see, that synergy right there. And, you know, we just probably need to deal with this flyer, and the Arcanist is not going to matter, but they quit before we even start, you know, putting the foot on the gas. So as you can see, this is definitely my type of deck. Low curve, aggressive starts, and you're really just trying to punish decks that aren't really able to get their plan off the ground. I'm really looking forward to watching this deck evolve. I'm looking forward to seeing if Pioneer, the meta, evolves with the bans, and see if this deck can maybe become tier 1 from where it is right now. Appreciate everybody watching. Like I said, if you liked the video, if you would hit subscribe, it really helps us out. If you want to support us further, we have a Patreon. We do monthly giveaways and have exclusive content over there. The link is down in the description below. Go check it out and see if you're a good fit. And if you want to hang out with us, we're streaming twice weekly, Tuesday and Thursday nights over on Twitch. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tapped Out. We'll catch you later.